What slide are you going to show?
Just our contact info
Oh,
for Mary Washington. I don't know that Rachel created one or not.
I don't have one from her, but I do have one, so I can definitely share that
Okay.
after. Yeah. Or are you going to share it at the beginning?
Yeah.
Let me just
All
pull it up real
right.
quick.
We've got a few people joining us. Welcome, everyone. Thank you for joining this session. This session is on finding your right fit, and we are joined by representatives from University of Mary Washington and University of Kentucky and 2 students. So I'm going to go ahead and pass it over to them to get this session started. Thanks for being here.
All right. Well, I'll go ahead and welcome everybody to the session. Very briefly, we'll just go ahead and introduce ourselves. I'm Jose Sainz, the director of the Center for International Education at the University of Mary Washington, and I have Aloysius. Go ahead and introduce yourself.
Yes, my name is Aloysius Kabonge, and I'm from Uganda and an international student and freshman here at the University of Mary Washington.
And Aloysius has been helping me this week recruiting at another session that we had, and those are the pictures of him this past week. Very briefly, you can see where Toronto and Montreal are on the map, and that shows you in reference to those 2 cities where the University of Mary Washington is in Fredericksburg, Virginia. And you can see there is some quick numbers about the university. About 4,300 undergraduate students, 85 plus programs of study, and currently have students from 33 states in the U.S. and 21 foreign countries. And we're located 1 hour south of Washington, D.C. And I'll go ahead and have Landon introduce the University of Kentucky.
All right, let me share my screen real quick. Let's see. Sorry, trying to find the right screen here to share my PowerPoint instead of my whole screen. Well, let me just try and share my whole screen. Let's see. Oops. Can you guys see my screen?
Yep.
Okay, perfect. So yes, my name is Landon. I'm with the University of Kentucky. I'm the Assistant Director of International Enrollment at the University of Kentucky. I'm joined by Shaban, one of our international ambassadors from Canada. And speaking of the University of Kentucky, a little background. It's a public research university located in Lexington, Kentucky. It's the flagship university for the state of Kentucky. Lexington is a medium-sized city of about 330,000 people. It is known as the horse capital of the world, fun fact. And the University of Kentucky campus is located right in the downtown Lexington area. And since we are the flagship research university of the state, we offer just about every degree program you can imagine, more than 200 degree programs. So whatever you're interested in studying, we most likely have the program. And I'll let Siobhan introduce herself. But as I mentioned, she's not only an international student, she's one of our international student ambassadors. And all of our international student ambassadors have a profile on the University of Kentucky international page. So if you want to reach out to her after, or any of our international ambassadors, you can find them there. And then this is also my email address. And then this is a link to the University of Kentucky international page. So, Siobhan, do you want to go ahead and introduce yourself as well? Just maybe a little background, what year you're in, what you're studying.
So hello, my name is Siobhan. I'm from Toronto, Canada, and I'm a sophomore student, and I'm doing my major in horn performance and my minor in digital media and design.
Okay, so I guess we can go ahead and open the floor for questions, or we can also have both Aloysius and Siobhan speak about their journey to how they came to the U.S. So either way, we can go ahead and Aloysius, why don't you kind of start the presentation by just talking about your journey, how you found your way to the U.S. and ultimately the University of Mary Washington. And then, Siobhan, we can do the same thing with you. And then if anybody in the audience has questions for you too, feel free to ask or type in the chat.
Right. Yeah, so after my high school in Uganda, I always wanted to pursue computer science, something that I was not given a chance to in my country because it's more of a liberal arts country, so they support more of the arts than the sciences. So I got involved with the Education USA in Uganda, and through their mentorship and training, they gave us a series of schools in America that were taking on international students and had very good scholarship offers. And University of Mary Washington happened to be on the radar, and it had the best scholarship for international students. On seeing that, I furthermore went to make more research about it, and I found it's a small college, and they have very good class sizes, and there's a very close proximity between the professors and the students, and that's something I very much loved. Um, on seeing that, I went on to apply to University of Mary Washington, and then I got into contact with my advisor and mentor, Dr. Jose, and everything from that day was smooth. We had a close exchange of emails, and I got to know more about Mary Washington and the US in general before I even got here. So, on seeing the close relationship that I had with Dr. Jose, I figured out that this is the best place for me to be. And that's how I went on to apply. Then I was admitted. On getting my admission, I had to have my interview to get my F1 visa. And Dr. Jose helped me in each and every step through answering the questions at the embassy. And yeah, that's how I got here.
Okay, thank you. Siobhan,
Excellent.
you want to talk about your experience?
Yes. So I mentioned before, I'm a horn performance major, so I'm in the College of Arts, and one of the big draws of Kentucky for me was how much the people in my program reached out. I would send them emails asking questions, and they were so warm with me about helping me find the best fit. And so I started off, I emailed my horn professor, Dr. Margaret Tung, and she was amazing and super helpful about giving me information from the school. And then after I got accepted to University of Kentucky, I got an email about applying to the International Ambassador Program. And the more I looked into it, the more I was so drawn to it. I have a really amazing, like, close-knit community of international students that are really there to support each other. So I applied to scholarship program and I got in. And one thing that I love so much about it is when I was applying, the students were reaching out saying, "Hey, we would love for you to come to this school." And that was one of the main draws for me, was how welcoming and helpful everyone was. For my application process, I remember me and my mom were struggling a little bit by ourselves to figure out the F1 process, as you mentioned before, because there's a lot of forms you have to fill out. And I remember I think I emailed Rachel and Landon about them, and they were so warm and welcome about helping me like figure it out and just explaining things so clearly. And I just felt like since I came here, the community here is amazing. I always have such an amazing group of people here to support me, and I just love it here so much.
That's fantastic. Does anyone in the audience have any questions for any of our students that would like to ask them, or maybe type it in the chat? And if not, I will ask each one of you to talk about one challenge that you face in the U.S. On your, maybe with classes, and how you overcame that challenge. I know that Aloysius, this is your first semester at the university, first time in the U.S. And Siobhan, you're more of a seasoned traveler now. You've been in the U.S. for a little bit. So maybe your
For a year and
experience.
a half.
That's a lifetime.
That is. But maybe you guys can talk about, what were some, one challenge that you've had, and how you either got support to get over it, or how you found a solution.
Um, right. So the challenge I faced when I came to the US, when I was coming from the airport, Washington Dulles, it was a smooth journey to come to the University of Mary Washington. Then, as I reached the university, someone helped me get my stuff from the car, and then we put them in the residence hall that was nearby. That was Westmoreland. And then, as a way of saying thank you, I was getting down on my knees to say thank you because that's the way we say thank you in my country. And then he said, "No, bro, you're not supposed to kneel." And then I was like, "Wait, what? You don't kneel here?" It's like, "No, just say thank you, man. That's all."
Yeah, Siobhan, I
Yeah.
don't remember that when you arrived.
Oh no, I didn't
What
do
the heck?
I didn't feel but
Yeah.
yeah, I
I've
remember.
seen where.
So that
Well,
was the first kind of shock I got. And then also the accent here is different, and some words mean different things. For example, in Uganda, uh, trucks are called lorries, and then instead of saying napkins, we call them serviettes. So those are things I had to learn slowly by slowly. And how did I overcome this? I engaged my roommate, Calvin Harold. He's from Arlington, and I asked him about how they call different things in America. And I also bought a dictionary for myself, an American dictionary, so that I could get to know how they use the different words, what to say. Yes.
I think one thing that I initially or not struggled with, but I remember when I first came here because Canada is obviously at the border of it. So I drove down 12 hours from Toronto
oh wow.
to go. And so we took our little Honda Fit down for the 12-hour drive. So obviously I couldn't bring all the stuff that I wanted to. And I have such a vivid memory of in our International Orientation Week, they set up like a big school bus to take us to Walmart and to help us get all our supplies. I remember I was asking all the international ambassadors previous before me that were a little bit older, like advice about what I should get and like the sizes of just like containers and everything. And that was super helpful. And similar to what you were saying before, there is like quite a Southern accent in Kentucky. And there's so many times where like the word pecan, I think it's pronounced pecan. It's like, no, it's pecan. Just like certain Canadian words. And also in Canada, you don't really say excuse me, you say sorry if you want to get past someone. And everyone would say, why are you apologizing so much? You have nothing to apologize for. I say, no, I'm not actually apologizing to you. I just need you to move out of the way a little bit. So I do say, even though Canada is very close to the US, there are certain culture differences as of like what you say in certain situations that people are just surprised by.
I have a question for both of you all, and I think it's also very fitting that the two universities we have here. I mean, one a relatively small university, and then the University of Kentucky, a big flagship public university. So what advice would you all have to other students, maybe some of the other students that are here, researching universities from small, medium to large universities, looking at their options, applying to multiple universities? If everything else is even on paper, the scholarship offers, the universities they're looking into all have the degree program they're interested in. What other, especially now that you're living the experience, what other considerations do you think students should factor into their decision-making process when they're at this stage?
I can go first if you want. But one thing that helped me so much was just reaching out to my professors and to peers that go or here or having them do it. So for my horn studio, the music program here is very small, and music can become like a very toxic and competitive place because there's limited amount of jobs. And my professor really wants it to be a healthy environment where we can all thrive. So what she did is she set up a Zoom meeting for me to meet the students that are in the program, my studio, and I think reaching out and meeting people, whether it's Zooming or emailing them, for me was so helpful because I could see whether I would fit into the group and what was like a good fit for me. So I definitely say reach out, email. Everyone is always going to be super nice to you and welcoming. And you're applying to the university. They want you to go here. So they're going to help you as much as they can as well.
Right. I would definitely say the same thing. Creating a close relationship with the university where you're going to. I remember Dr. Jose. Uh, he he was he's the best. He gave me everything that I needed. When it came to the time to go for my F1 visa interview, I used to ask him like 3 4 times that Dr. Jose, will I make it? I'm scared. I've never been for a visa interview. And then he told me, just be confident, and say what they ask. That's all. And that close relationship that we had is something that drove me and said that, yeah, this is definitely the best place for me.
Absolutely. So, reaching out, developing relationships before you even commit to the university, especially before you arrive in person and attend. Yeah, that's definitely a solid piece of advice.
Also, I'm sure many people can relate to this, especially being international students, because we can't tour the schools a lot of the time because they're very far and just like financially, you can't fly to every single university. And what helped me too is watching a lot of the videos of doing the campus tours and even watching a lot of students make vlogs about like a day in my life as a University of Kentucky student or TikToks about it. And that can also give you a really great perspective, not just from like an adult or an advisor side, but like seeing what a student does in there, the activities they have, and just like the overall vibe of the campus.
Right.
That's a really good point. And another point that I'll briefly make is that if you already know the type of program that you want to pursue at the university, go ahead and reach out to the faculty in those departments and find out more about that particular program. So if you know you want to study biology or chemistry or computer science or international affairs or history, reach out to the faculty and the department chairs of each one of those departments, introduce yourself, and just simply indicate your interest as an international student to find out more information about that particular program. They'll be always very helpful.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Well, do any of our
There's a
participants have any questions?
yeah, there's one in the chat,
Yep.
and maybe you both can address this. How were the dorm situation? Like, do you have to live on campus?
Um,
So
For my first year, I lived in a dorm, which was super helpful for making friends. At every dorm in University of Kentucky, there's a thing called an LLP, and that stands for a Living Learning Program. So, because I'm in the School of Fine Arts, I was in the Fine Arts Living Program. So, what they do there is they have events. You have to attend, I think, three, but in your dorm there'll be like hundreds of people who are in the same college as you. So my roommate was also a musician, and then I had like one of my best friends as a dancer, and she lived down the hallway. So living in the dorm, I think, is really amazing for your first year because it gives you such an opportunity to meet people, and then you can walk to your classes together, go get breakfast together, and it helps you make friends super easily. So I 10 out of 10 recommend dorm for first year. And right now, as you can see, this is my apartment, and I found it with girls that were actually in my dorm and we get along super well. I love living in an apartment. Mine, I'm really lucky. It's a 10-minute walk from campus. But in Lexington, we also have a lot of complexes that are just specifically for students. So there's a lot of whether you live on campus in a dorm or you live off campus, maybe your second, third, or fourth year, there's a ton of safe situations where you can live in. And but yes, dorm life for first year is what I would do again.
Right. I highly recommend dorm life too. Like in Mary Washington, you're given a dorm depending on your freshman seminar. So all first years are supposed to live on campus. And then when you become a sophomore, junior, senior, you can live in an apartment. Like you can say this is my dorm and that's my roommate's bed. Yeah.
Nice, nice. Yeah, just to add to that a little. So, and this is another thing to take into consideration, clarify when you're researching different universities in the United States. Is, for example, at the University of Kentucky, even first year students, freshmen, we do not require to live on campus. So there is flexibility there, but a lot of U.S. universities do require students to live on campus at least during their first year, right? For example, I know a lot of international students, they come together or they meet students before they arrive, other international students. And so they already have some roommates, some potential roommates, and they find off-campus housing. And when I say off-campus, as Siobhan mentioned, some of these are literally right across the street. They're just not technically university dorms, but only students live there. And a lot of U.S. universities have this option, right? So, depending on what you want, because I'll be honest, just being as transparent as possible to provide everyone with as much advice as possible. Sometimes the university dorms can be rather expensive. There's certainly the more expensive option in Lexington, Kentucky. So, maybe it's not even just, preference. It comes down to financial feasibility, right? So it is important to, clarify, do first year students have to live on campus? If so, what are the different options, shared dorms, single dorms? Or do I have the option to look at off-campus housing as well? So that's something else to take into consideration.
Right, and just to follow on that, a lot of the smaller schools, and again, this is all about finding your best fit, and you are the best person to determine where do you see yourself in what kind of environment. A large school, large community, a smaller community. And the point is that in the smaller schools, they really want students to be part of that community on campus. So in some universities, particularly in the smaller universities, you might have a first year requirement or even a second year requirement to live on campus, precisely because they want to create those close ties among the students. So again, when you do your research and you identify the type of school that you want to be part of, that information is easily found in their websites in the ones that deal with housing options. So do your research, because everything is pretty much available to you. Okay, so there's another question there. Why did you decide to start looking at the United States for university? So I think that's a good question for Aloysius and Siobhan.
Yeah.
Why the U.S.?
Well, first for me, I initially wanted to do track when I was in college, and obviously there's the D1 programs at universities. So that is what first piqued my interest. And then also for me, my senior year of high school was during COVID. And in Canada, the lockdown restrictions were way more strict, and all university was going to be online. And in the States, they had in-person classes. So honestly, that was a huge reason for me of why I wanted to come to the States. Also, I really love to travel and I wanted to explore the world and broaden my horizons. And one thing I really love about Lexington is even though it's in Kentucky, which is a smaller state, it's very close to many metropolitan cities, such as Chicago. I've taken a trip to Nashville before. That was amazing. It's not super far from Ohio either. I've gone up to Cincinnati and Columbus. I have friends that live there. It's honestly, I wanted that American experience with the football games. And I was just curious to see what it was like. But there's
the basketball games.
And basketball. Sorry, I almost forgot.
I mean, it's Kentucky.
Come on.
But yeah, it was mostly because I wanted to travel and see, and I'm sure you can relate as well. It's very different from your home, being in a completely new country and city. So that was for me the main reasons.
Yeah, well, for me, I wanted to try out something new and have a hands-on experience, and with world-class and first-hand universities. Because in my country, sciences are not something that is taken so much into consideration, and I wanted to pursue computer science and become a data scientist. So when I hopped onto the opportunity to come to the United States, I found it the best fit for me. Right. And also, the Education USA agency in my country is very strong and fundamental when it comes to providing university education to high school students compared to other countries. Yeah.
Yeah, so I see we have another question here from Mohammed. So, regarding the tuition, I can at least speak for the University of Kentucky in the fact that, yes, Canadians are international students. They're neighbors, but they're still international students. So the international tuition rate applies, but they're also eligible for all the international scholarships as well, right? Now, again, do your research because this is not the case for every single university in the United States. I know that some universities, especially up north in some of the northern states, and especially some private universities, they do have benefits to students applying from Canada. So do your research, clarify that. But at least in the case of the University of Kentucky, yes, Canadians are considered international students.
Yeah, it is the same thing at the University of Mary Washington.
One thing that's really good to know as well, though, is I'm pretty sure it's the same at your university, but at University of Kentucky, you can stack scholarships. So, for example, I'm on an international ambassador scholarship, but I'm also on a music performance scholarship. So you can apply to as many as you want, and there's no limit of how many they can give you. So
Right.
I would not be afraid to just apply for all of them if you can. I wish I applied for more now knowing that you can stack them.
Yeah, same thing for me too. I just recently found out that the computer science department here has scholarships too, and I wish I knew that earlier too.
Yeah, and real quick, Elodie, to answer your question in the chat about the SAT. So again, when you're looking for that best fit university, out of everything else, we've talked about in this session, that is now something you should definitely investigate is the testing requirements because many universities in the U.S. are test optional now. For example, at the University of Kentucky, we are test optional not only for general admission but also for scholarship consideration. So speaking of the scholarships, international students can qualify for academic scholarships without the SAT just based on their GPA. But this is not the case at all universities, so that's another thing to confirm and clarify when you're doing your research.
That's the same case with the University of Mary Washington. Test optional, which you're going to find a lot of universities use that terminology. Test optional, meaning that you do not need to take the SATs or the SATs. However, you might and submit one or the other, but a lot of universities are considering scholarships without those standardized scores. So do your research. Everything is published, everything is online, and if you can't find it, reach out to the schools directly.
All right. Thank you so much to our group. Great information. They're not gone. The session is over, but they're going to go to their booths. So you can go right over to the booth area, click on the booth, and keep the conversation going. When you scroll to the bottom of the page, there's a little table, and you pull out a chair. So you click on the chair, and you can keep this conversation going and use the microphone and camera to do so. Thank you to everybody who joined us. We're going to go ahead and close it up. And we'll see you out there at the booths.
All right, thanks everyone.
Bye.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.